read this book from cover to cover on a Saturday afternoon, and I was going to do it over the weekend, but I couldn't put it down, literally. It is amazing, amazing book and an amazing story that you'll hear about this morning. And of course, Diane will be here after the service to sign, for book signing, and be present with you. Now, just what I'd like to add to the introduction is that sometimes there are people whose light is so bright that they don't have to be in your presence to experience it. There's a light that touches others' lives. It's a light that touches one's heart. It's a light that says yes to whatever Spirit calls it to do. And so the light is Diane Pauly. And now she would like to say a few words, and then we will have an interview. Diane, come on up, please. Yeah, you want me to talk? Yeah, I want you to stand while you talk the first minutes. Is that okay? Yeah. Or would you rather sit?
No,
Okay.
no. Hello, everybody.
Next slide, please.
First off, I love you. You are a true family, and it isn't until you're away from your family that you appreciate them. We had our ins and outs. I know a couple times, maybe more than you were ready to shoot me, especially during the board meetings. Those are crazy times. But I want to ask you a question. How are you? With that, I want to tell you a little story. I love stories. My daughter and I, back in Sheboygan, we were working with a group of Russian women with domestic violence things. And my daughter has a Native American Indian teepee nestled in the woods. And that's where we would go and hold these group meetings. And this group of Russian women, we were talking and we were saying, well, I was saying, we Americans, we see someone and we say, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, how are you? And then we go on, right? Well, we told the Russian women this, and they said, oh, no, you don't do that in Russia. If you ask how are you, they're going to take up at least an hour of your time to tell you how they are. So we learned a lot. So, dear darlings, this is the first time I'll be doing this type of an interview, and what'll come out of my mouth, only heaven knows. And I hope to have a wonderful time. And I do want you to know my life truly was purpose-driven. I didn't know it all my life until I actually sat down and wrote this book. And then I realized, oh my God, that's where my energy has been. And I am truly blessed to know that, what my purpose has been. So, what this young man is about to ask, like I said, you'll never know what'll come out of my mouth. So, wish me luck.
Maybe you put that next slide up, please, Martin. Thank you. Oh, you need to bring that mic with you. Well, okay, go ahead and sit down.
Oh.
Since I'm from Virginia, I'm supposed to help out, okay?
Oh, all right. Okay, very good.
Southern hospitality.
Okay.
Oh, goodness. Well, this is exciting. So, you talked a little bit about who you are, what you are. I would love for you to share with us your early childhood up to age 17. What was that like?
Okay, to begin with, I would like the other slide on right now. Okay. You think she's adorable? That's me. I refer to her as the little girl. Okay. I did want to thank everyone too. I forgot to do that for having me here, for hosting me, and all the work that went into this, and the people that helped write my book, and all the rest of everything. I just have to say thank you to everyone. I do have a little cheat notes here. Okay, the little girl. Okay. Now, if you notice, it says it's called life. Why me? When I say why me, it's like, why was I given the purpose of experiencing horrible things, basically living in hell, and then also seeing the beauty of what heaven can be? Because I've been both places. And it was a transition over the years, to say the least. So I love to show a little girl, and no doubt at that age I had no idea what was coming ahead. And I found out, but it took a while, for sure. Now is where you can do the other slide, if you would. Okay, so from that little girl that's shown in the background to the person I am today, there's what's in the book, the whole thing. So when I was young, what was I like? I was a happy-go-lucky kid, climbing trees, playing sports, you name it. I loved life. I loved water. I loved being out in the sun. I loved running through the fields. I was a truly, really, really playful kid. I loved life. And then things started to change. And as things changed, a move came. And when that move came, we moved from Sheboygan Falls to Sheboygan. And when that happened, little by little, things started to change more and more. And that's where the book gets a little more in detail as to how life can change. And it changes slowly. But you know, as a kid, we don't really pay attention, right? We just go along and live it. And that's what I learned. I was raised in a very, very strict family. And it was children should be seen and not heard kind of thing. It was an example for punishment. One of the things, my dad had envisioned a piece of wood about 1 inch thick and 1 inch wide and about 3 feet long, and envision that being put on a step. And now envision me kneeling on that. There were grooves in my knees, and I had to stay there until he said I could move. Spanked. There were punishments. So, when did fear start to set in? The fear came. But again, I lived my life, and I just moved forward. So as time went on, we changed homes a lot. I changed schools a lot. And one thing led to another. And then my dad and mom started drinking more and more. My dad had been in the service. After he came home, he was changed. And so the drinking started, and then the physical fights started. And I have one brother, no sisters. And so I would stand back and watch at that time yet. But then as time went on, my brother, who couldn't take it any longer, left home right out of high school. And so I was left with my parents, who were now alcoholics, and liked their drinking a lot. And I became the punching bag. So now, and some of you have heard this story or part of it before when I've been here. It was part of a sermon, I believe, that I had given back then, a number of years back. But I became the punching bag. And so one evening, my parents couldn't hold a job, so they had moved, they had to take a job out of town, and they were working second shift. We lived in the country, and I had to go on the bus to get home from school. And so every night I'd go home. My parents were gone. They were working second shift. And so the house, we lived in an 8-foot wide trailer, by the way. Envision 8 feet wide. I mean, couches are 8 feet wide, a lot of them. But, and when we were younger, we lived in an 8-foot wide. So it was a couple times in my life that we lived in an 8-foot wide trailer. And to give you an example what that was like, it was so short that the trailer was so short that my brother and I had to sleep on a couch, or Davenport or whatever you call it, that opens into a bed. And that's what we slept in. We had to make that up every morning, or bring the blankets out at night. But then again, when I got older, now I am in high school, freshman year, coming home on a school bus, or it was a sophomore year, and we came home on a school bus, and I came home on a school bus, and like I said, my brother was already gone, parents were at work, and so I would have the trailer to myself. I always had chores to do when I came home. And so it was, I think I'll take a nap. My parents won't be home till morning anyhow. So I was alone all week long, out in the country, no bus service, and I didn't drive. So it was very lonely. So the friends couldn't come. I couldn't go to high school events, any of those things. So here I am alone, and I thought, I'll take a nap. So I went and laid down, and then I heard the car doors slam. They had not gone to work, which meant they had been out drinking, which meant, oh boy, what to expect. Well, they came in, my dad saw dishes on the counter, hadn't gotten them done, and he asked, why aren't these done? And all I did was stand and look at them. And then the slaps started. And they continued. My mother stepped in to try to stop him, and then he turned on her, and so I tried to stop it from him hitting her. So here we are in this wonderful brawl. Next thing I knew, I was on the floor. My dad sitting on top of me and hitting me. I managed to get up somehow. I don't know if it was my mom that helped or how it happened, but I got up. Looked in the mirror, my face was covered in blood. And I thought, I got to get out of here. And so, living out in the country, there was the woods. So I ran out of the trailer, grabbed a summer jacket. It was middle of winter, cold as could be, but I had to get out of there. Grabbed a summer jacket, put on my shoes, and out I went. Where do I go? Do I go through the woods? Do I go on the highway, the road in? If I go that way, he'll follow me. The woods, I'll go that way. It's dark, but I gotta run. So I ran. So I never went home after that. My relatives called the police, and I never went home. Didn't know where I was headed. So I had to put up with all of that, being called to the office all the time. And at any rate, I was put in a foster home. I was 15 at the time, but I'm put in a foster home. Well, the woman was an alcoholic. She had a glass on the shelf. The husband came in, made advances, had to tell him to get out. So what did I do? I happened to have a boyfriend at that time. Thought we were in love, of course, probably were. We decided to run away and get married. And there's a story connected with that. Now that part, you're going to have to read the book to find out what was all involved in that. And there's a whole story in that. I have to really laugh. But that basically is what happened for me up until the age of 17. And with that, I guess I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Just for a second. Yeah. As you said, you married Phil at age 17. And in your book, you talked about the success you had together with your business. You also had 4 beautiful girls come into your life. But you made a statement when I said that must have given you real confidence, what you were doing. And you said fear creates perfectionism. Would you please explain to us why fear created perfectionism?
Well, at that time in my life, it's because I was raised in fear. I lived in fear as a child, all the way through, high school. Then you get in a foster home, and you don't know the people. And when I moved there, I swore I was going to lock myself in the bedroom and never come out, because here I am with strangers living with them. So my life was motivated with fear, and I lived in fear. Okay, now how do I get rid of that fear? What do I do? I please the people. I do what they expected me to do, because if I didn't, I'd be beaten. I'd be put down. And my mother had a way of putting me down with her words. You know, she was the one, well, why do you bring books home? Your brother doesn't, or don't ask so many questions, or that stupid question, or she would just continuously be putting me down. So how do you get past fear? You do what people ask you to do. So here I am, and we're in this business, and I did absolutely everything. That's probably why I worked so hard here at Unity when I was here. You know, you get it in your blood, and you do what you have to do, and you work hard. You want to please people. And I think most of us walk around with a mask on, as far as that goes. If we took that mask off and really, truly were the person we are, it'd be amazed how much easier life would be. But to me, that's what fear did. It made me do it all, and I did everything in that business like you can't imagine. Plus, all the work at home, because I had a husband that would come home and put his feet up. So I did absolutely everything, and we had 4 daughters.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, eventually, you decided to get a divorce from Philip. And if you want to know why and what happened, you have to read the book. Then you found yourself at age 35 without a high school diploma, and you decided to get your education. What was that experience like of being 35 and having to go through that process?
Well, that was interesting because it was, okay, now, when the divorce came, I did not have a high school diploma. I did not have a job. I could not turn to my parents because they were the knife in my side. The relatives, no doubt, thought that I was doing well because we were self-employed and all of that. And so it was, now fear kicks in again, and it's like, what am I going to do? No high school diploma, no job, no friends. We always chummed with his friends. And here I am, raising 4 daughters, 100% alone, not knowing what did life hold in store for me. Well, I like to say that when you are afraid or what, the pain exceeds the reward. And the pain was, what am I going to do? I had to do something. And so I thought, I've got to go back to school. I have to, because I had quit school. Actually, forged my birth certificate, ran away and got married, is how I ended up being married, because I was only 17. There's a story behind that. You got to read the book. At any rate, where was I? Where did I leave off? I was headed somewhere. The school, okay. But the school situation, I was older than the rest, and actually one of the classes I had, and I love discussion classes, psychology, probably was a psychology class. At any rate, I absolutely love discussions, and I love going in deep. I don't stay on the surface. I'm kind of unusual that way. I have a friend here with me today. You can ask her, she will tell you. They used to think, my friends thought I was a little off-center because of how I would go out and hug trees and everything. But I soon learned hugging a tree was very important. And you know, so that's a whole nother story. But so these students were all older than me. I mean, younger than me. They were younger. And I was with all men because I took materials management, and that's all men in there. But I had to get into a job that would pay. And coming from the occupation I had, the self-employment, it fit right in. But then I also took business administration and psychology. Had to find out what made the brain tick. So I had a professor. I got a story for you. I love to tell stories. I had a professor that preferred men over women when it came to something like materials management, or, you know, women just aren't smart enough or whatever. And so he had the habit of, when you took a test, he'd say, well, now if you got that wrong, tell me what you think, you know, what you thought the question was, and we'll see. You know, and so he's telling these guys, well, yeah, all right, I can give you credit for that. I see how you understood that question. So I had a question, I raised my hand. And honest to God, I swore that I understood the question in a certain way and the answer was correct. But he said, no, can't give you credit. So now this other, Jerry, his name was, he had done this twice already. It was the third time. And Hank was the instructor, and he said, well, yeah. And then I found out I had a voice, and it erupted right in the middle of the professor's sentence. And I went, all right, you give him credit for that. But then I want credit for mine too. And I took my fist and literally hit it on my desk. And I said, what's fair is fair. I looked around the room, and people were looking at me. It was like, where did that come from? This quiet little Diane found her voice. And that was maybe the first time I really stood up. It was, golly, this isn't right. I have a voice. I can, you know. So anyhow, going back to school helped me that learn, face your fears. This is where it all started. Just face your fears. You've got to learn. There's a lot of those, you know, we are students in the classroom of life, and it isn't just about in a classroom. It's about everything we do in every day. But learn all you can while you can and never stop. I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you here are ignorant? Please raise your hand. Come on, come on, come on. I am ignorant, and I'm glad I am, because that means there's a whole life out there waiting for me. Ignorance is nothing more than lack of knowledge. And so be happy if you're ignorant. That doesn't mean you're dumb or stupid. Okay. Anyhow, I got a lot of going to school. I learned a lot about life and living. It wasn't just the books. It was also socializing and sitting in these classes with all men.
Thank you. Kind of a fun question, if we may. Dave, your husband, is your soulmate, from everything I can tell. And share with us a little bit about how long it took Dave to pop the question. How it built up.
Well, that's an interesting story. Now, a lot of you people here know David. And you know him to be a beautiful soul. But all of us have a side of us that, you know, you don't know about unless you live with them. At any rate, it was before I lived with him. We actually dated for 4 years, and he called it off 6 times. Not 1, not 2, not 4, 6. And this goofball here, I made excuses. Well, I'm older than he is, and maybe he thinks that we're too old to have kids, and he doesn't have any. And so I came up with all these excuses. Well, one day, he had asked if I wanted to go out and hit some balls, because he was very good at playing golf, and just go hit some balls. And so I met him, and we did that. And I hugged him when I left. I had to leave early, and there was this cold hug. It was like I could have hugged a street post, you know. And when I walked away, there was that pain. That pain exceeded the reward, and I thought, by God, why am I doing this? Why? So then, it was then that I absolutely made up my mind. No, he comes around rapping on my door. I really mean, I'm not, no. So sure enough, he came rapping. You want to go hit some balls? You know, it was like 2 weeks later, because we had broken up at that time. And he came, sat on the porch, thought, well, she'll go with me, right? And I looked at him and I said, no, that's it. You've hurt me enough. I'm done. Oh, you don't, yeah, this is it. I mean, sweet little Diane here. You know I'm sweet, don't you? I don't know, maybe I have to tell you that, I don't know. But at any rate, I think it shocked him. But we did split up for almost a year. And then one day out of the blue, I thought, give him a call. I don't know what that was about. Okay. I called. And He said he had been watching, if you recall, the movie Out of Africa. And he and I, we thought of our life that way, because, Robert Redford, he'd come and he'd leave, there was a rule, they loved each other, but he would come and he would leave. And so David said he was crying as he was watching that movie, and he was thinking of us. Could he see me? So we did see each other. We saw each other just a few times. And then he popped a question. And I said, "What did you say?" And he said the whole thing all over again. He can be very dramatic. David, he can, And he said it again. And I said, "Would you say that one more time?" He actually did. And in the proposal, he also included, to make it very clear, that proposal also included the 4 daughters. And we were married. And I said, "Should we wait until, do a June wedding?" "No, why wait?" he said. And so we got married. And that's sort of, kind of, the story. But again, you want more? It's in the book.
Yeah. And ladies who are single, remember, say no, and they will ask you to marry you. Okay. I'm going to the last 2 questions, I want to combine them into one. Diane, you have done a great deal of service for others. You have followed a spiritual path with a foundation built on fear at first. You turned that fear into something different, obviously. Would you just share with us a little bit, what has been your spiritual path, and how have you served others? And how did that serve you?
That covers a lot of territory. I went on a silent retreat a number of weekends. And during that silent retreat, the message came through really loud and clear. I actually ended up going back to school, going to college. And I ended up being an underwriter, insurance underwriter. And I had a very good job. And David and I were married, and I went to a silent retreat, and a message, and that's the other thing, is people, listen. Sit quiet and listen. You don't even have to say anything. I used to prop my pillow every morning, and these messages would come through, and then listen, just listen. At any rate, I was on this silent retreat, and this message came through. I was sitting in the silence in chapel, and this message came through and said, "Quit your job. I have other things for you to do." It was so loud, I actually went home and quit my job. Everything changed. Like, I ended up, my mother, who had more or less been an enemy, you might say, living with us. She was dying of cancer. We bonded. We made peace. I ended up, taking people to Brazil. How many of you have been to Brazil? I did that for 11 years. I did not plan on that at all. I ended up going to Costa Rica, Linda, and that was an experience. There was a little happening. I went for a walk by myself in the jungle, the rainforest, whatever you call it, and it was a big ravine and this long bridge to get across. And as I'm crossing, and it was like being in Wonderland in there. Way on the other side comes this butterfly, and it's coming, beautiful shade of blue, and gets closer. I thought, little fly away. And it came closer. I thought, oh my God, it didn't fly. It actually came all the way, touched my shoulder, turned around, and flew back the way it came and out of sight. Why did it do that? I don't know. Gosh, Rita Marie Johnson, who visited here, that was something too. How did I meet her? How did it happen? Ending up going to Costa Rica and going to the United Nations University of Peace and being taken on tour there. You know, this was not planned, any of this. I ended up going to India on horseback up in the mountains. That was totally not planned. But it was all because I was hunting out my spiritual self and I was finding it. I actually sat, and this is going to blow your mind. I had been going from church to church just to see what different churches were like. And one day, I'm sitting in church, I'm with David, my hubby, and with my daughter Wendy and her husband. And I'm sitting in the front pew, and this is a true story. People were taking communion, and as I'm sitting there, I could see everything, every individual, but all of a sudden what came over me, this huge, huge message or feeling that all of us were one. All of a sudden, we were not separate at all. Not at all. That is some powerful thing there that happened. I experienced us all as being one. And it's hard to put into words and to describe that. I just did so many things that just drove me into the spiritual world. I had visions. I went to see a priest one day. And on the way, I had a vision. And what I saw was, what is heaven about? And there before me, as I'm driving down the road, I could see everything. But at the same time, here's this vision of beautiful flowers, or beautiful sunset, or soft rabbits, or little puppies, or it was all the beauty you could imagine in your life and that message was, that's what, if you want to call it heaven, or if you want to call it love, or if you want to call it God, or the divine. And then the vision changed to where I saw like dead branches and ugly carcass with maggots eating at it. And that represented hell. That represented the evil that we do to each other in life. It was so strong. I could just, it's all about, everything is a feeling. It was a feeling. And when I got to the priest, I said, I've got to tell you about this. And he said, when I was done, he said, Diane, he said, I will agree with everything you said. He said, I would add one thing. When you get to those golden gates, they're going to turn you around and say, what do you choose? So, again, there's things about all of this and a whole lot more. I mean, I have a list, a true long list of all the spiritual things and the growth that I've lived. And it all came out into, I've lived all of this, it's time to share it. And with all the domestic violence going on in the world, and all the hurt, and all the pain, and all what we do to each other, and the importance of love, the importance of giving, the importance of caring, I have and have had for a long time literally a burning desire to help others, because we all need help along the way at some time or another. Some maybe a little more than others, but it's all out there. So thank you. I've got story after story. I do. Thank you so much.
And thank you for allowing me to interview you. I appreciate that. And thank you for coming back here and sharing your story and sharing your love with these people that you do love and you care for and who have helped you grow also. So thank you. And yeah, stand up a second. Everybody stand up, please. Stand up. And let's bless this beautiful person. Diane, we love you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ you are. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Mhm. Is that okay? Okay.
And now we'll have, the microphone.
There it is. And as you start within, feel the presence, the energy, connectiveness that not only do we have with spirit, with one another. As we go within, we can ask ourselves, what is ours to do? What is mine to do? What is my next step? How can I serve others? And as you are in the silence, you feel your heart expanding. You feel your body filled with energy, with an understanding that you are in the now moment, alive, energetic, creative. Feel that in the silence. Thank you. And know that the universe is calling to you, through you, as you. And now just remain quiet for a few moments. Gently open your eyes and say, Namaste, Namaste, Namaste. And so it is. It's up to you.